And we are live. Welcome to Stu and Keira's Star Trek Sunday. I'm one of your hosts, Stu Jackson.
And I'm Keira.
Hey, Keira. And you're back with us a week earlier than expected. So, I mean, we're not going to go into the whys because it's a little bit sad from what I understand. But we are very pleased to see you here this week.
And what an exciting week to come back as well.
Isn't it, though? Oh, dear.
Sorry.
The excitement's
Sorry, everybody. I have a
cough.
It's not COVID. I've done a test, but if you hear me coughing, it's just a cold, I think. I'll be fine.
You will. No need to state the nature of the medical emergency just yet. But yes, so... do you know, something I normally do that I haven't done yet is test out the Twitch messaging on screen. So if one of our listeners can send us a message through the stream chat, that would be fantastic. Let us know that you're there and that the messaging system is working. While we're hanging on for that, we've got a very exciting episode this week, haven't we, Keira?
Yes, we are talking about the motion picture, which I thought I had watched when I was a child, but actually when I watched it yesterday, I realised I hadn't seen it before. So
You'd not seen it at all before?
No, so I thought that I'd watched it with my dad when I was little, but actually I must have watched one of the other films and then forgotten the name of it.
Right. Oh, interesting. Oh, well, looking forward to talking to you about that one then. We are also going to be doing our deep dive this week, as suggested by our very own Ed Wilson. We're going to be looking into the changing face of the Klingons. And there's Ed, straight away in the chat, so I also know that the chat's working now. Thank you, Ed. So, who's certainly first saw it over a non-Christmas holiday. Well, it was released around the Christmas time, certainly in this country, and a little bit earlier in the US. So it does tend to be a bit of a Christmas movie. But yeah, fantastic. So that's the Klingons. That's your suggestion, Ed. Looking forward to that. What else we got coming up, Keira?
An unboxing from you, IKS Mata. Am I saying that right?
Close, I think so. Yeah, Matach.
Matach.
Oh, yeah, something like that. And we will be doing our regular roundup of Star Trek news, so news from the Trekverse. And I know you've got some very, very exciting information to share with us, and I can't wait for us to go into it. So, let's kick off the episode, shall we?
Yes, so the motion picture, which was released in 1979. And do you want to tell us all about the plot? Seeing as you've seen it more than me, for sure.
Well, actually, I mean, so some of our regular listeners will know from very early episode, I talked about the motion picture as the thing that got us into Star Trek in the first place. But Keira, I mean, you're probably not aware of this story, so do you know what? Regular listeners, you're going to get this story again. My 6th birthday, I was in 1979. I went to see the motion picture because I'd watched the original series on reruns on BBC Two Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. with Dad, because it meant I got to stay up an hour later, past my bedtime, to watch it. So I sort of feigned interest, as you do. It's completely over my head. But I do remember watching the motion picture in the cinema and just being totally and utterly blown away by it. And plot-wise, I mean, it's easy to look back and sort of tear the crap out of these things. But plot-wise, it's a fairly simple plot that's really drawn out, I think it's fair to say.
Very, very drawn out. I reckon they could have easily shaved off 45 minutes of that film.
Oh, and the rest. I mean, they could have done it in a half-hour episode.
Maybe. It was originally meant to be an episode, wasn't it?
It was originally planned to be a two-parter. So Star Trek 2, this was going to be the new series of Star Trek. Yes, it was the original version of the script was the two-parter opening of it. And we were going to have Commander Decker as the first officer, who later became Will Riker, as many of us know, and who was, in fact, the son of Matt Decker, who we saw in the original series fighting the Doomsday Machine. There we go. I'm getting into trivia when I shouldn't be. There is so much to talk about with this movie, though. So the plot, so you've got a refit, brand new Constitution class Enterprise. Everything is updated about it. It's all shiny and new and squeaky clean, and the special effects budget has been vastly increased from the original series. You have an Admiral Kirk. You have this strange cloud vehicle thing coming towards Earth, destroying everything in its wake. And in fact, the opening scene is it destroys 3 Klingon vessels without even batting an eyelid. And it shows us how amazing they are. And this is where it relates to our deep dive. This is the first time we get to see the new style Klingons with the new prosthetics and the ridged foreheads and what have you. Well, we come on to that a bit later. So, Kirk and this new Enterprise are sent to investigate this strange craft that is incredibly powerful and discover it to be an artificial intelligence. Not only that, but it is coming to Earth to seek its creator, because it is, in fact, spoiler alert, Voyager 6, the unmanned probe from the 2020s. In fact, I think they specify. Or is it late 20th century?
I think it might have been late 20th century, because there were 2 actual Voyagers sent off into space, and one of them became the furthest object from Earth in 2012.
Yes, but do you know it's getting closer to us now?
Is it coming back like a boomerang?
No, it's not coming back. But as we circle around or as our solar system circles, we're on an elliptical course where we're actually getting closer to where it is. But that it'll go away again. It's just But it is currently the furthest man-made object from us that we know of. Absolutely. So yes, they discover its feature, and indeed Commander Decker and the love of his life, Ilea, who went on to become Deanna Troi, merge with V'Ger, and a new life form is born. I've probably just really not done the plot of that justice at all, but it was amazing to see, like the special effect. I mean, this was only 10 years after Star Trek had finished, and the amazing effects, sets. It was incredible. Hi, Paul.
It's quite a good treat. Like, there's a lot of very interesting special effects that I wouldn't have expected to see, but it was quite cool.
Absolutely. But when you were used to seeing it on a small screen, very grainy effects, and then you see it in the cinema as it is, and later on, because I had the Laserdisc and what have you. Yeah, I've been a geeky for a long time.
You know what? The only people I've met who have Laserdiscs or used to have them have always been Trekkies.
Yeah, we're people with taste.
Yeah, probably. My unofficial godfather, they used to have a lot of Laserdiscs. And we used to go around their house and watch lots of them as we were growing up.
Excellent. Into some trivia then. So this was directed eventually by Robert Wise, who was well known as an award-winning director because he directed West Side Story and The Sound of Music.
Just a bit of a change then.
A little bit different, this one, but he did a fantastic job, I think.
It was good, yeah. I think it was quite nicely directed, I think. I think it would have been quite different if they'd had another director. And on the list of directors that they were considering were people like Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, and Philip Kaufman, which, can you imagine how different it would have been if Spielberg had directed that film?
Oh, totally different. Or George Lucas. They might have gone down the, space fantasy, wizards in space kind of route.
I
Yes,
don't think that would have ever really gone down very well if George Lucas had. I don't think he would have agreed to it at all.
it certainly would have been a different film, and indeed, I mean, Spielberg would have been an interesting one. I think it would have been quite a bit darker. It was pre-ET, so
I mean, it was pretty dark at the beginning though, with the Klingons, and then with the transporter accident.
mm.
That was
And what
actually
was
genuinely, it put me on edge a little bit. I was watching that like it was kind of almost a bit Cronenbergy because you see
mm.
the malformed bodies slightly sort of manifesting and then they disappear again. And I think that could have been really horrific if they'd actually fully shown it.
Oh yeah, and that distorted shriek
Yes, it
that's
was quite
made
scary. I
by
was watching it on my own last night and I was like, oh dear. I wasn't signing
yeah.
up for horror.
That was quite scary for a 6-year-old Stu. In fact, yeah.
Yes, I can imagine actually. And quite a few people I've spoken to on Twitter about it have said that they couldn't watch the Klingon scene because it scared them so much they had to skip it when they were children.
Really? Oh
Mm.
no, I didn't find the Klingons scene too scary.
No,
Um,
I didn't either. It was the transporter accident for me, but I guess different people get scared of different things.
absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, it was kind of rushed out as a film. It was brought out in response. A lot of people attribute its response to Star Wars, which it in part was, but also the success of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Really made them think like, okay, sci-fi is the thing to. I mean, whether Close Encounters is a sci-fi or not remains to be seen. But that's a whole other argument for a different podcast that I do. But yeah, the success of those made them think, right, we've got to pull something out, and we've got to pull it out quick. So it was a bit rushed out. Went through lots of different script changes and writers. It was at one point most famously going to be Planet of the Titans, where Kirk and crew went back in a ship, a redesigned Enterprise that looked incredibly like the current Discovery ship, not by accident. And they would have gone back thousands of years into the history of Earth, and Kirk would have brought fire to the first people, go him being Prometheus and the Titans being the crew of the Enterprise. I'm glad they didn't, because that would have been shit.
That sounds like that was one of Shatner's ideas. I will be the bringer of fire.
Yeah. Not that he thinks overly highly of himself or anything.
Not saying a word.
More on him later.
Yeah, it was interesting. I found out after doing some research they were working right up until the day before it was being released in theaters. Yeah, they were getting rewrites of the script every single day, sometimes multiple rewrites a day from Roddenberry and Livingston, who they would sort of argue about what was going to happen, and lots of changes that were made in the script were sort of delivered to the actors on the day. And sometimes Livingston would choose a day where Roddenberry wasn't there so that he couldn't stop them from doing it. So there were quite a few tensions around the lines. I know quite a few of the characters were quite a few of the actors, sorry, would say my character wouldn't say that, and then they would have to revise it again. And yeah, so I think that would be quite stressful as an actor. I don't think I could deal with that if my lines are getting changed every day. I find it hard enough to learn them as it is.
I know, right?
But one of the more interesting points is that the ending where Decker merges with Ilia and Vija, that was more or less sort of improvised on the day, sort of devised on the spot, because I don't think they had finalized the ending entirely, and that just sort of happened, and there you have it.
It's hard to imagine the ending without Vija merging at least with someone. So, do you think it was that it was going to merge with? I'm saying it was going to merge with someone else, or
Well, in the when it was designed to be an episode, I read that the original ending was going to be um, someone from NASA would go up to it and say, "We made you. We're your maker. We're your creator," and the machine would shut down because it had then found the final answer that it needed. It had fulfilled its purpose, and it would shut down as soon as it found out who the creator was. And obviously, they took that in a different angle where Vija wanted to merge with the creator instead, and that's where it came from.
Okay, yeah, that would have been much more boring.
Yeah, definitely. And then you wouldn't have had that really cool special effect with the like lights going around and everything. I thought that was really cool. And
Yeah.
actually, that, the lights going around and around and sort of like swirling up around the body reminded me so strongly of a scene from a Studio Ghibli film, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, where the have you seen it?
No, no, I've only really seen Spirited Away.
Oh, you should watch it. It's very good. It's very 80s. I love it. There's these big bugs, giant bugs that come from a toxic jungle, and they come to heal someone, and they heal people by sending out these tentacles of light that swirl around in exactly the same way they did around Decker and Ilia and Vija. Really, really cool.
Right. Do you think it was influenced then by the motion picture?
Possibly, possibly. It's very Japanese, but they do take a lot of their influences for those films from Western film tropes, so it's possible.
Okay. Paul agrees with you. He says that's a top film, Kira.
Thanks, Paul. One of my favourites, actually.
Yeah. And Ed has said Kirk has plenty of previous with mildly mad computers. That's very true. You've got Landru, of course, famously. And what was the name of the probe in that episode that was sort of a bit like Voyager? Where the probe goes from Earth and then merges or crashes into an alien probe. And they mix up the programming. Now it's like find all life and destroy it. Yeah, I forget the episode now, but yeah. So that was, yeah, definitely previous there. Fantastic. Now, one of the early scenes, we get to see the entire crew of the Enterprise in one room as they're being briefed about Vija and its approach to Earth. Required a lot of people. Rather than bringing in extras, though, they actually used Star Trek fans and family to fill out the people, which is one of the reasons why when you go to different cuts, everyone stood in different positions because they got no fucking clue about continuity. They were terrible. But you had notably in there, you had James Doohan's two sons who didn't know they were going to be on screen until he brought them onto set, as he would do. You know, do you want to come on set and see me filming some scenes? So he brought them on, took them into the wardrobe department and says, right, fit them up. That was the first they knew they were going to be on screen, which is lovely. And on top of that, one of the other people, I mean, there were a lot of sort of well-known people from Trekdom, but in particular, Bijo Trimble, who was one of the people instrumental in keeping Star Trek alive for a third season as part of her writing campaign. And then, of course, a sci-fi writer herself. But yeah, she was in there as well.
I found out about that all of them were paid for that day's work, but hardly any of the checks were cashed. Because I think a lot of people framed them and just kept them. Like, I've got a Star Trek check.
A fantastic memento. Yeah.
Back in the days when you'd get paid by check.
Well, I was on a job not that long ago. I worked for an American company and they paid me by check. American check, which I then couldn't cash, so I had to reject it. And
Oh no.
then I had to pay me on PayPal. That's a whole other. So in America, they do still pay by check.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so inconvenient.
I know, right? It's
dear.
weird. Finances in general are just weird.
Yeah, very stressful. And thinking about James Doohan, actually, I found out that he was one of the people who helped create the initial beginnings of the Klingon language. So at the beginning of the film, the Klingons at the start, they speak a few words, and those words were devised by Duan himself. And then after that, it was Okrand or Okrand, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but he was the one who then Okrand, yeah. So he was the one who then took the words from that film, and he is a linguist, so this is like his realm of expertise. Devised the entire Klingon language from those initial few words that Duan devised for the film.
So why Duan then? Because I mean, he couldn't even do a Scottish accent properly.
No, he could not. I've searched everywhere on the internet to try and find the reason why, but there is no information about why he did it, only just information about how he did it. So apparently he recorded himself saying it on a tape and then gave it to the Klingon actors, and the actors then wrote it down phonetically so they could learn it. But yeah, I've no idea why he was chosen, because he also did the Vulcan words as well from the scene with the Spock and his little ceremony going on. He's not a linguist. Why did you choose him? I don't know. But apparently the scene on Vulcan was actually shot in English. So the words that they devised had to be matched with the way the mouth was moving from the woman who was speaking. So that was all. I think that must have taken ages. I would have been so stressed out if that was my job, trying to devise a new language that fit with English-speaking words. How did you do that?
Yeah, getting the phonemes right. I mean, you see it in the Wrath of Khan with Kirstie Alley. They did the same thing there. Did the lines in English, then overdubbed in this made-up Vulcan language. And you can see that, actually, if you watch it with the sound off, you can see they are speaking English. It's quite obvious. But very cleverly done. Very clever way of doing it.
Very clever. And keeping Okrand on his toes, obviously.
Yeah. So moving on to some of the special effects then. The V'ger prop itself, which you don't really get to see properly. I mean, you get to see close-ups of it in segments, but you don't get to see the whole thing in the normal cut. It was so large and involved so much work making it that one end of it was still being used in scenes while the other end was still being built. It was a bit of a Seven Bridge ongoing process.
I can't imagine how stressful that would have been on set with all the noise going on. I imagine they probably wouldn't have been building it during a take, but
no, you'd hope not. Absolutely.
Actually, thinking about that, I read that the sound of the screen projections from inside was so noisy that they had to dub over the whole of the beginning anyway, from the bridge on the Enterprise, because it was so loud. Because back then they didn't have quiet computers, so it was all projectors, noisy projectors.
Yeah, and they didn't have the facility really to put the images on screen afterwards like they do now or anything like that. Yeah, so much. I mean, it was all physical, or not all, but mostly physical props, and none of your CGI stuff there, which I think makes it a whole lot better. That's a very different conversation.
I do prefer practical effects, and it is a different conversation. I could talk about that for hours, because you look at films made in the 70s and 80s that have practical effects, and they have stood the test of time. But if you watch something with even as recent as 10 years ago, the CGI from 10 years ago was awful, really bad. Not that we judge them, because we move with the times, but just never watch snakes on a plane and look at the snakes, because they're just terrible. Absolutely terrible.
The comparison I always do is the Matrix films. Obviously the first Matrix film was mostly physical props and very little CGI. When they came up with the second one, by then they'd moved forward, and the difference was stark. Absolutely stark.
We don't talk about Reloaded. One thing I found out on my little research quest, which I thought was really funny and sad, and heartbreaking, but just hilarious, was that the actress who played Ilia, Persis Kambata, she obviously shaved her head for the role. She was so upset that she had to shave her head that she kept her hair in a box and like looked after it in this little box. And she made Gene Roddenberry take out insurance in case her hair didn't grow back. It did. Her hair grew back, but she was so upset about losing her hair and worried that she made him take out insurance. I'm not sure how much for. Maybe it was like Regina George and it was $10,000. I'm not sure, but I thought that was really interesting.
I sort of get it because I mean she was Miss India, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was a pageant queen.
She was. So her looks and her appearance were her source of income.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can totally empathize with that. I'm so protective of my hair. Like my hair is one of my favorite things about me, and I try and look after it as much as I can. And if someone told me you have to shave it off for a role, I would do it for the right role, but I would be upset. I don't know if I'd keep it in a box.
No, that sounds a bit creepy. Does make me wonder if I ought to get Harrods to insure me every year, because I have to take mine off.
When you're Santa.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, well, when I'm one of Santa's assistants.
Of course.
Now, speaking of Persis, she, oh bless her, she didn't have much of a fun time on set. She was temporarily blinded during one scene, the one where she's scanned and destroyed by the probe, because they had her keep her eyes open as they bombarded her with intense light, and that resulted in a form of flash blindness. She did recover from it, but that must have been terrifying. I mean, I'm actually terrified the way my eyesight is deteriorating now. But to be in that situation on set, you've had this light shining in your eyes and now you're blind. God, that's terrifying.
They wouldn't make you do it now. There's too many like health and safety procedures to stop that kind of thing from happening, and there's ways of producing that effect without exposing the actor to something potentially harmful.
I thought you worked on indie movies.
Yeah, I do. There's still procedures and policies and stuff in place.
Yeah, on some, I agree.
But, yeah, that's very unfortunate. I used to work in a horror maze as a scare actor, and there was a scene in the horror maze where the audience would be drugged and they would be exposed to like, dry ice where it's just like smoke. It's not real smoke. And then a strobe light would come on. And then while they're being strobed, the actors sneak up around the sides and scare them. And they'd be so like intense from the strobe that it would freak them out loads. So I can only imagine how that must have felt for her to have been exposed to it for like a prolonged amount of time. Must have been awful.
Yeah. You imagine the yeah, now we need to get that from a different angle.
Oh God, I'd be like, just please use more than one camera. I only don't want to do it again. Oh dear.
That was perfect. Now let's take it again and again and again.
Well, you know what? After the first one, she was already blind, so who cares?
You can't make her more blind. Oh dear. Are you a director?
I have directed in the past. It's not my area of expertise, though. I'll let other people do that.
Yeah. Please. Yeah.
I do write scripts, though. And so I thought it was very interesting that in this script, one of the lines that Commander Spock says is, "Any show of resistance would be futile, Captain," which, any Star Trek fan would recognize that, and it might sound familiar because the Borg say resistance is futile. So a lot of people over the years have theorized that this was sort of a precursor to the Borg, and that potentially they may have been descendants in a way of Vija. Like perhaps Vija could have landed on another planet and assimilated people from that planet, and that's how the Borg were created. Because you know that they're all sort of heavily reliant on machinery and like bionic parts and stuff like that. So that is a theory.
I've heard similar theories over the years, and I'm gonna. Sorry, I'm probably. This is terrible. I'm gonna piss all over this one a little bit now. Sorry, Kira. But canonically, the Borg existed around the 1500s Earth year. So, unless the wormhole that the Voyager probe went through was a temporal wormhole that sent it back, I suppose that's feasible.
Anything's possible when you're in space.
That's true, but then if it's the merging of Vija with Decker and Ilia, that's out by sort of 700 years, at least, for the creation of the Borg. I've heard a similar theory as well that it was the Borg was the machine planet that found Vija and created the ship. But the trouble is that the vessel is way more superior in power to anything the Borg ever had. So I think that's one of those nice theories. But
it's all speculation anyway. It's like people just come up with these ideas and run with it. I thought it's interesting, like resistance is futile, that does have quite a strong connection to that. So I would be interested to know who wrote that into the script in Next Generation.
It is, but resistance is futile is not... we now associate it, but it's not an uncommon phrase to say that resistance is futile.
You bump into a lot of Borg, do you?
Well... Pre-Borg. I mean, it's
Pre-Borg.
Yes, Ed has jumped in there and said that the Vogons use it. Vogons actually said resistance is useless in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And Ed has typed that as I was saying it. So, so it is a thing that comes up. I don't know. It's a nice idea, though. It's a nice idea as a connection. But I think the universe and the galaxy is far too big for such things. That's my my theory anyway. I'm going to give you one more bit of trivia, though, on this before we move on. Majel Barrett, or, Mrs. Roddenberry, as she's known for playing, obviously, a number of roles in Star Trek, almost ended up playing her animated series character, Maress, complete with tail and ears and fursuit, because that's what Gene Roddenberry wanted her to reprise the role of. So it almost got a live-action Maress. But she refused. She said, "Nope, I'd look silly." So they brought her back as Dr. Chapel instead.
She would have looked silly. I'm not going to lie. I don't think they would have been able to make that look realistically very good back then. Yeah,
when you see the Saurians in the motion picture, and indeed some of the more extreme aliens, they were struggling a little bit with the effects at the time. I'd like to see...
She was doing the voice of the computer anyway, so it's not like she needed to have more.
Indeed. But she was the wife of Gene Roddenberry, so...
Give her all the parts.
Do what the hell she wanted.
She can be Captain Kirk for all I care. I love her. I think she's great.
Indeed. There's so much trivia we could have gone into with this. This is the first time I've talked about the motion picture in depth without mentioning split diopters. And now I've just ruined that. But there we go.
Go on, you have to explain it now.
A split diopter, it's a sort of lens filter cover thing. So you know how camera lenses are usually low depth of field, so a person will be in focus, but then everything behind them is out of focus. That then draws the eye to the subject. Split diopters are basically half lenses that you fit over the top, so you can have a person in focus, the background behind them out of focus, but then someone off to the side is also in focus, but they're way behind. The motion picture uses split diopters more than any other film I've ever come across. I think it holds a record for the most amount of scenes filmed with them. I don't like them personally. I think they're... Why not just go for a shallow depth of field? A deep depth of field.
Get a pull focus so you can focus on the person in the foreground and then change it to the person. I think that looks better anyway. I love
agree.
A pull focus.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But now they wanted like both people in. You'll get someone like working at a console in the background and they're in focus while Kirk's. It's a bit weird.
You know what? One thing we haven't mentioned is the budget.
Oh, tell me about the budget.
So the original budget for this motion picture was $8 million, and after a little while they sort of managed to get it doubled to 16 million, but with all the rewrites and all the extra special effects they needed, by the end of the production it was $36 million.
Wow.
Which was at the time the highest amount, and actually I think up until the newer Trek films, I think it was the highest budget for any Trek film for years and years and years. More than a decade. Wow. Maybe more than that. But yeah, it was ridiculous. It just kept going over and over budget with all of the extra bits they had to do. I think ABC, the channel in the US, contributed 10 million and had some reshoots added in so that they could have exclusive rights to air it first on TV. Broadcast it first.
Right.
It went well over budget.
I think they did well though in the box office, didn't they?
I'm not entirely sure on their box office.
No,
I'll trust you on that.
I just think they did okay.
Yeah.
I don't think they lost money on it.
No, that's good then. Well done.
So, as this was your first time seeing the motion picture, what did you think then, overall?
I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed the second half more than the first half. I think once the action starts going, it was really good. Sort of from the bit where Ilea comes back as the sort of drone sort of character, that's the point where it got really interesting for me. And everything after that was really good. The first half was a bit slow for my liking, and there were just a lot of really long drawn out shots that was so unnecessary. Like the bit that really got me was when, I know this was probably like amazing for like the original series fans, but where Kirk is like flying towards the Enterprise in the shuttle and you're just there for like 5 minutes looking at different pan shots of the Enterprise. I was like, just show us one or two really good ones. You don't have to show us your whole B-roll. I was eating popcorn, like, just make it end. But yeah, there were some bits I would have cut down. But I'm critical like that with every film I watch. If there's a lot of unnecessary filler footage, I don't like it. Just get to the point and do it well, and don't drag it out. I'm very fussy. But yeah, the second half of that film was really good. I enjoyed it. The ending was cool.
I can definitely see why, having sort of come back to the motion picture from more recent stuff. For me though, that I love that scene, and I know it's drawn out and I know it's unnecessarily drawn out, but I absolutely, because I'm a shit fan, I'm a technology sort of in the series fan. That's why I collect all the starships, so I could like do my own fly rounds and flybys and not run around my living room going whoosh. It really, for the first time, it acknowledged that the ship itself was a character, which you hadn't really had before.
Yeah, that's
so I liked it for that.
They do touch on that in, I think, most Star Trek series actually do think about that quite a bit, especially in Voyager. Catherine Janeway often talks about the ship being like a member of the crew and like a not a sentient being, but like a separate entity, which I think is interesting. I think when you spend that much time with a starship or with any sort of thing like that, it does, you can personify it in your mind, I think. And that was interesting. And I liked the refit of Enterprise and the dynamic of Kirk coming onto the Enterprise and it being different, and him having that conflict with Decker, and that made it more interesting for me. As soon as you start getting the character interactions, that's when I really like it.
Yeah, excellent. Would you recommend people watch it, having seen it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if someone wasn't a Trek fan, I would maybe say watch some other stuff first and then watch the film. But any Trek fan, I think, would love it. Yeah, definitely. Really
Cool.
good.
Excellent. So there you go, viewers. Moving on to our deep dive then this week.
Yes, the Klingons, the changing face of the Klingons. I am very interested to hear what you have to say about this. But the original series had sort of depicted them as a sort of Asian or Mongolian looking appearance, you know, with the eyebrows and the facial hair, but none of the cranial ridges. And when you think about sort of how Mongolians are depicted in films and stuff like that, it had that sort of costume and sort of war costume. It made me think of like Genghis Khan sort of type appearance.
Khan! Sorry.
How did I know that was going to happen? Yeah, they sort of made their hair look quite thick and like darkened the skin tone a bit. So yeah, the original Klingons didn't have the cranial ridges, and I don't think they looked as big.
No.
Like they just looked like people in suits with funny facial hair. They didn't really look like aliens. Like when you look at Klingons in the more modern series, a lot of them look bigger in stature than humans, for example.
Oh, that's definitely part of it. I mean, the later Klingons were given platform shoes as part of their costume to make them taller and broader and more imposing. But yeah, they were just definitely humans with different facial hair and brown makeup. Now, a little bit of a this I'm going to share with you all now a bit of an embarrassing secret about myself here. A few years ago, I did a short film. I gave myself like a 48-hour sci-fi challenge, but just for me and some friends. We did 48 hours to create, like write and create and edit a 15-minute short film. And it involved an alien who had come to Earth, like a refugee from his planet. I thought, well, how am I going to like just quickly and easily make him look alien? And I thought, oh, I know, I'll do an homage to Klingons, and I'll use brown pancake makeup. And I was almost about to do it, and then actually that might not be appropriate.
No.
Ended up like using white pancake instead, and like referred to him as a ghost, like that was the nickname. There's
quite a lot of contention about that. About a lot of people see Klingons as coded as black people because of the way that their skin tone is, and a lot of almost like allegories between racism in the real world and how, you know, Klingons are perceived in Trek and things like that. You can quite easily draw those conclusions by how their appearance is and how they all have sort of darker makeup and very clearly a different race to a lot of the other people you see on Trek.
I don't think it was intentional on the part of Roddenberry and co.
No,
it was just like, you know, playing into people's stereotypical images of like what would people perceive to be aggressive.
Yeah,
and it just happened to fall that way. But now, the motion picture then gave us an evolution of the look of Klingons. So we had the uniforms that we're much more familiar with now, sort of armoured uniform. You had cranial ridges on them. Although, interestingly, all the crew that we see on the Klingon ship all have the same cranial ridges. Now, it's been... later on we get to see that it evolves and changes depending on the family you're in. So either all the crew were from the same family, or it just hadn't evolved yet at that point. But do you know what? Nobody lost their shit over the motion picture in this evolution of Klingons the way people have in Discovery. And it pisses me off.
I think there's quite a culture in today's sort of Trek fan club. There's quite a culture of it having to be true to the old Trek. And I don't know if that was a thing, but when the motion picture came out, I think people were just excited to see something new. These days, people get almost territorial over Trek tropes and things like that, and they hate it to be changed, and they hate it to be shown in a different way. And I don't agree with that. Like, we've discussed this before. I'm quite happy for new things to be added and for things to be changed, and I don't understand all the hate around it. I think they look cool.
Yeah. Well, technology and special effects evolve and get better and more improved, and as they do so, you can get closer to the original idea of, okay, we're wanting to depict something truly alien. When you watch, like, sorry, I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but when you watch TNG and you see it sort of upscaled into better quality, you can see, like, the edges of the prosthetics and things like that, and it was fine for the time. But it had to be improved.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think you can see, like, in Next Gen, like you said, it is more sophisticated, and they do have different ridges and stuff. And in Next Generation as well, you get Kayla, who is half Klingon, half human, and her ridges are quite different to what you would see on a full Klingon. And I thought that was really interesting. And there is quite a difference between, you know, how she looks and then how B'Elanna looks in Voyager, because B'Elanna's half Klingon, half human. But obviously when people take on different traits from their parents, for example, that's why they look so different. And that's been explained in canon as well. Yeah, definitely. And I think they did tone it down in some films, didn't they?
Yes, Star Trek V, you had shallower head ridges than what you'd had in previous ones.
Was it General Chang, the actor?
Oh, The Undiscovered Country, yes.
Yeah, the actor who played him asked for them to be more toned down, so you could see more of his facial expressions when he was acting.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Right, we'll blame Christopher Plummer for that then.
Christopher Plummer, that's his name. It was there. It was in my head. That's it.
Speaking of The Sound of Music earlier, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, all connected.
Yeah. Fantastic. So moving forward then a bit to Deep Space Nine and the anniversary episode Trials and Tribulations, where they use footage from The Trouble with Troubles, the original series episode, as they go back in time, and Worf encounters original series. I thought they handled that really, really well when he just said, oh yeah, we don't talk about, yeah, they are Klingons, but we don't talk about it. I thought that was the way to go. That's the way to do, you know, just, we know as an audience, okay, it just evolved because special effects evolved. And that was a really nice way of handling it, I thought.
Yeah. And very Worf as well. Very Worf. Like, he doesn't like to talk about his personal life at all, or like any Klingon secrets and things like that. So I thought that was good. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like you said, it evolves and budgets get bigger too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And on Enterprise, it is explained that it's a genetic mutation caused by Klingon augments.
Yes, they go into some detail. And Ed has said that Deep Space Nine perfectly handled it, and Enterprise didn't need to do an episode to explain it. No, I agree. I don't think it was necessary. I like Enterprise, and I think if they were going to explain it, okay, but yeah, not necessary. But they did.
You know what? I will admit, I haven't watched Enterprise since it was on TV.
It's worth a rewatch. I like it. I mean, to me, there's no bad Trek, even Star Trek V.
Yeah, I mean, I will watch it because I'm on season 2 of Deep Space Nine now. So once I finish DS9, I'm going to watch Enterprise. But the other day, I watched and listened to the theme song on YouTube, and I was just like, so I'm not. I think I'm going to use the skip intro function on Netflix when I get to that one.
I like the theme tune, but then
It's
I like
good, but
Russell
it's not
Watson's
Trek.
It's not Trek. It's the new actually Discovery and Picard theme tunes I don't like.
Oh well, I'll let you know when I get to those ones, and we can discuss that too.
Absolutely. Ed has said he's redoing it himself, and it is really rather good. Kat, hello, Kat. Happy birthday for a couple of days ago. Kat has said, as mentioning Tribbles, that anyone that hasn't watched the Trek short, The Trouble with Edward, needs to watch it, and I agree entirely. I mean, it's Archer, you know. Anyway, that's a whole other. But it is absolutely brilliant. And canon now. So, yeah. Ed has also said that something would also make a good adventures campaign. I'm guessing that's the Enterprise. Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. So... moving forward then a little bit further, but also moving back in time, the JJ-verse 2009 reboot showed... well, we actually saw the Klingons in the second one, didn't we? Into Darkness. And we see them with additional prosthetics to what we were used to on their nose and in their cheeks. He had pierced ridges, rings through, which was weird, and much more alien eyes with contact lenses as well. So we did see an evolution there. And again, people just lost their shit over the JJ verse, to be honest.
Yeah,
too busy. And yeah, Cumberbatch as Khan was very much a bit of a distraction. He was terrible.
No,
I mean, he is terrible. I can't stand Cumberbatch.
I think Cumberbatch would have, if we'd gone back in time and recast it, I could see him more as a sort of Spock character. But then, maybe that would have been too close to him as Sherlock, and they didn't want to typecast him or something. I don't know.
And yet his acting range is such, that's probably where it would have had to have gone.
Well, fair enough. I won't argue with that. I can't argue with that, actually. But yeah, so we move on to then Discovery, where you get the completely revamped version of the Klingons with their quite different colour. So you get the sort of charcoal grey Klingons and the sort of icy colour Klingons with their no hair, and their ridges extend all the way down their back of their head, and they've got broader noses with prosthetics on their faces and things like that, which I think is really, really, I think it's a really cool look, and I quite like it. And the reason that they have the ridges that go all the way back is that it's been explained that the ridges are actually an extension of the Klingon spine, and we know that they've got like a backup spine. So I think that's quite cool that they've got the spine that comes up over their head and ends on their forehead, and you can see some of them, the ridges even come down their nose a bit. Imagine having if a human spine went all the way up over the head and ended here. Like, how weird would that be? But yeah, and it's sort of, they explained that by saying that different houses of Klingons evolved in a different way, and like I think the Klingons in Discovery were from had a different homeworld to some other sort of the Klingons. So they just evolved in their own separate way with their no hair and their fancy colours and bigger noses and stuff like that. I don't know, what do you think of the Klingons in Discovery?
I love them. I think they're absolutely brilliant, and I just see this as a natural evolution with the special effects and seeing different sort of coloured Klingons. Yeah, I'm all for it. But yeah, people did lose their shit. And yes,
people get angry about things like that, isn't it? Like, it's funny.
I know. And Ed has put in the chat, remain Klingon, but he's put it in Klingon.
Aww.
There we go.
And I'm excited to see when people do cosplays of these Klingons and stuff, because I think they're gonna have to get creative to make that look good in a cosplay. So I'm excited to see what people come up with.
Oh, it's gonna push people's abilities and make them improve, which has got to be good.
We love to see it.
Yeah, and Kat has said she's going to have to hide her Cumberbatch fan club membership now.
Sorry, Kat. No judgment from me.
Absolutely. Well, Kat herself says it would be a boring world if we all liked the same things, and that's very, very true.
Yeah, of course.
And Ed seems to like the Discovery Klingons, saying they're almost feral. I would agree with that. They certainly look much more aggressive and scary than what we've seen before.
I think
Fantastic.
as well, we're used to the old style Klingons. We're used to seeing them like that. And if they want to present us with something that looks more alien and is, puts people more on edge, what else were they going to do? Like, apart from change how they look? I think it was a good way to go.
Yeah.
A bold move.
Yeah. They could have created a new race, I suppose, as a villain, but then, they're going historical, so it's like, oh, well, what happened to them then, Paul has said, remind him of reptiles. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a reptilian sort of thing. Why not? Why not indeed? So speaking of Klingons, I have an unboxing to do, don't I?
I'm so excited to see.
Yeah, but do tell us, everyone, who your favourite Klingons are. Like, what style of Klingon is your favourite? We want to hear that. But this week we have the unboxing. Oh, do you know what? I've messed up my screens. Let me just adjust our images a little bit.
Oh, there's four of us.
As we go. Yeah, I know. I'm rubbish. So this is one of the troubles with OBS. There we go. That's better. Right. So yes, you have the IKS Medha. I'm probably saying that wrong, but never mind. It is a Raptor escort prototype, part of the Star Trek Online Delta Rising Operations Pack. The ship itself was launched between 2405 and 2410, so some 25 years after our RPG game that we play on a Wednesday night every second week. So, completely unopened as ever. On the back you have images of some of the other ships in the range. Oh, I'm looking forward to the Tholian one, Tholian Recluse Carrier. Some of these I've already got already. But yeah, some others coming out soon. Bit of a sneak peek. We have the tiny excuse me, magazine. So you can see this is number 12 in the Star Trek Online collection, and it's the usual information. A bit of a background to it. Lots and lots of writing in this one. The specifications and design, some different designs that they came up with, and the usual stuff there. And the magazine, as ever, is far too small because it doesn't fit in the binders. Get your shit together, Eaglemoss. I say that every week. And the ship itself, this is in the same, oh gosh, it's in there quite tight, there we go, careful not to break it. It's in the same sort of scale as the original Star Trek collection. It's quite nice, it's fairly weighty, so there's a lot of die cast in it. Certainly the head is die cast. I think the parts of the pylons are die cast. There's a lot of detail. I'm holding this in the wrong place. I really need a better camera for this. Some clear plastic on the nacelles. Yeah, it's quite nice overall, as Klingon ships go. Yeah.
Nice sort of avocado green.
Yeah. Well, of course, a lot of the Star Trek Online Klingon ships are this sort of olivey colour. Yeah, it's nice. It's got sort of quite reminiscent of the Nakvar in the way that the forward bridge and hull is. Yeah, overall it's quite nice. I've never played it or come across it in Star Trek Online myself. So yeah, hard for me to get excited about, but it's quite a nice one as models go. So there we go.
I need to get on this Star Trek Online hype.
It's good fun. I mean, if you like video games, it is quite good fun.
Is it on like on a computer, or can you play it on a PlayStation as well?
Excuse me. I do need a cough, sweet Stu. I play it on the PlayStation. I got a PlayStation 4. You can play it on PC as well. I'm not sure about Xbox. It is cross-platform.
So maybe I'll. You know what? Since I moved into my new house, I haven't set up my PS4. I used to use it every day, and I literally haven't used it in over a month. So,
right. Do you have VR?
No.
You need to get VR, and you need to get Star Trek Bridge Crew.
Okay. All right.
I mean, you can play Bridge Crew without VR, and indeed some of our watchers have played it. Oh, excuse me.
I think you have caught my cough over.
I must have done. It's like computer virus.
I'm so sorry.
Do you know what? You have to excuse. I'm going to go get a drink for 2 seconds.
Go on then.
I'm going to leave you to entertain everyone just for a second. Unprofessional of me, but there you go.
How do I do this on my own? She is the backbone of Star Trek Sundays. I can see in the chat. Oh, someone says Captain Janeway. Kira needs to get on the bridge with us. Okay. Yes. I'll get my Janeway costume on and I will come on to the bridge.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
No worries. Stu, apparently I need to come onto the bridge.
Yes, Star Trek Bridge Crew. Well, many of us play it most. I was streaming it for a while, but many of us play it on a Thursday night from 9:30. We have quite a good crew going.
Nice. How do you play it?
Very well, thank you. It is a virtual environment, so you take a station on the bridge of either the USS Aegis, the Enterprise D, or the original series Enterprise. You either sat at tactical, navigation, engineering, or in the captain's chair, and you control the ship in various missions.
I'll be engineering. I'd love that.
It's a good one to do, definitely.
Awesome.
There we go. All right.
Well, this must take us on to Trek news. Right now, and then so we've got lots of things currently in development. Would you like to tell us about the first one?
Well, yeah. Actually, it's not so much something in development. It's something that probably we should have done today's show about with hindsight, but hey ho. Tomorrow is First Contact Day. Now, we are 42 years away from the Vulcans coming to visit us in the Toplanahath. But we celebrate it every 5th of April nevertheless. There are all sorts of events going on, and we're mentioning Star Trek Online there. They've already kicked off First Contact Day celebrations, and from now until April the 22nd, both PC and console players can participate in 3 events to celebrate this holiday. Captains will travel to the events of the First Contact Day film, with Jerry Ryan, of course 7 of 9, famously voicing some of these things in order to stop the Borg. You can participate in a recreation of the synth attack on Mars from Star Trek Picard, or travel to the First Contact Museum and complete a replica of the Phoenix, mankind's first warp-capable ship. Completing those events unlocks the grand prize, the Martian mining laser. So there we go. But there's all sorts of different things going on for First Contact Day, and the best place to find them all is on StarTrek.com /first contract. Contract? First contact. But, of course, the biggest thing of all that everyone needs to do is get their salmon cooked, ready for their first contact day salmon.
Lovely. I also heard that, I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently Lower Decks is going to be free to stream. Is that right?
Really? Oh.
I heard that in celebration of First Contact Day, that Lower Decks will be available on Amazon Prime for free.
Okay. Well, yes, it is on Amazon, but I subscribe to Amazon, so I get it already. All right. Yeah. Well, that's nice. That's good. It should be.
Treat for Trekkies. There you go. There is also a Prodigy panel as part of the First Contact Day events, which I'm quite excited for Prodigy. Yes. Might tune into that tomorrow because I've got the day off because it's bank holiday.
Well, as a Janeway fan, I expect you are excited for Prodigy.
Yes, because we know we've heard that she's going to be in it, and we're not sure in what capacity. There is a fan theory that she will be an ECH, like an emergency command hologram, and that she will emerge in a time of crisis to save the day, which, we've had the EMH throughout the whole of Voyager, and he had his go at being an ECH, didn't he? He was captain for a brief period of time. So
he did brilliantly at it. We should have seen more of that, I think.
Yeah, it was nice when the colour of his uniform just changed. I was like, yes, get in there. Love Robert Picardo. He's great.
He is fantastic. Well, that's an interesting theory, because when they announced that Kate Mulgrew was going to be part of Prodigy, they said Captain Janeway, Captain Catherine Janeway. They didn't say Admiral Janeway. Because there's so much speculation about when Prodigy is going to be set, where it's going to be set, because it's all aliens we've never seen before. So is it going to be in the Delta Quadrant? Is she going to send them off on their mission? Is it set in the future? Is it set in the past? We know absolutely nothing except it's a group of teens running an abandoned spaceship.
I'm so excited to see what sort of escapades they get up to. It's going to be funny, I think.
Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to that. We mentioned quite a lot about Star Trek Online. There is another role-playing game being launched fairly soon called Star Trek Legends, where Trek's past, present and future collide in a new RPG. I say available soon. Sorry, it's available today, exclusively on Apple Arcade. Excuse me. It is being published by the people at Tilting Point. So these are the people who did Star Trek Timelines, a phone game, which I've had to play of in the past. It's quite good fun. And they are featuring a brand new storyline from Star Trek comic book author Mike Johnson, as well as characters from the entire Star Trek franchise, including the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, Discovery and Picard. So that's one to look for, Star Trek Legends.
This is the first time in years that I have regretted buying a Samsung phone, because now I can't get this game. I'm so upset.
Oh, no, I've been assimilated. I'm an Apple user.
Last time I had an iPhone, I said I would never go back. They die so easily. And my Samsung I've had for well over a year now. There's not a thing wrong with it. I don't think I could ever go back, but maybe I'll get a cheap iPhone or an iPad so I can play the game, because I really want to play it.
There's a cheap iPhone and iPad.
Like maybe a second-hand one that I only need for the game. Like I won't use it for anything else. Like a burner phone almost.
I was being disparaging of Apple.
Well, yes, we know.
None of it's cheap.
And I don't want them to have my money, so second-hand is definitely a good option.
Yeah.
Despite me having an Apple Mac that I'm literally using right now.
Well, you do film editing. I mean, how else are you going to use Final Cut Pro?
Oh, I use Adobe.
You don't need a Mac.
Very funny.
I like my Final Cut Pro.
Yeah. So, on April the 6th, William Shatner will be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, the celebrity wing, alongside William Refrigerator Perry, Bob Uecker, is that how you say his
Eureka?
name?
I believe
Drew
so.
Carey, Mike Tyson, Mr. T, Kid Rock, Snoop Dogg, Donald Trump, and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So it's in mixed company there.
A few
Some,
goodies, a few baddies.
yeah. And yeah, the Shat. Hmm.
The Shat.
Yeah. I mean, is he being inducted because of the famous, Kirk Chop, or
We,
just
we don't know.
yeah,
It seems like a really odd bunch.
yeah. Some of them very odd. Yes.
Who would you want to be next to out of that list if you were in there?
Oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger,
I'd
definitely,
go for Snoop Dogg.
definitely. Because he'd make me look tall. Because he's a short ass. He
Hey,
he is a short ass. Yes, I've met him. Um,
I didn't know that. I thought he was
yeah,
tall.
yeah. No, they always film him to look tall. He's shorter than me, and I'm not particularly tall.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Mm,
I still
yeah,
choose Snoop Dogg though.
hey,
We'd
he's
have
all right. He's all right. Maybe next to Mike Tyson to make me look more intelligent.
maybe.
Fantastic. Well, we wish Shat all the best, even if he is a dick. Uh, that's my opinion anyway.
Oh,
Someone who I, in fact, have much more respect for is the artist John Eves, who is getting a Lifetime Award. Now, he's been creating iconic designs for Hollywood for 35 years, including many Star Trek films and television series. And so the Arts Directors Guild Awards have decided to give him a Lifetime Achievement. And do you know what? We're going to go back to the display cam just briefly. For those people who aren't necessarily aware of John Eves's work, I have this book was a birthday present from my sister a couple of years ago, because he designed the Enterprise E, he designed Deep Space Nine. That was one of the early concepts. I've got a signed picture of the Shenzhou that he designed there, with his signature. And yeah, so to give you a bit of an idea, I mean, instantly you're into Vija, because he was very heavily involved with the artwork there.
I
And
like all
this
the gold. That's really lovely.
Oh, in the yes, absolutely. I mean, it's an amazing artist and come up with some really incredible designs. There we go, the Enterprise B he came up with. Like I said, the Enterprise E. I'm just turning to pages at random. The sonar collector there. Some various bits and pieces. The Federation holo ship from a terrible movie. The Romulan warbird. Yeah, he's just absolutely incredible. So well done, John Eves.
Yeah, well done, John Eve. That's absolutely beautiful, that book.
Mm.
Stunning. I love it when they use that little hint of gold is so beautiful. Really lovely. Right then, now for my favourite piece of news. Anyone who's seen me on here before will know that I'm a Voyager baby. So imagine my absolute delight when the Voyager Indiegogo campaign ended. And not only had they, last time we talked, they had surpassed the original record for the highest funded Trek film. Now it is the highest funded documentary on a crowdfunding campaign ever. Yeah. I am so happy. So well done to anyone who's donated, all the like hardcore, diehard Voyager fans who made it possible. I was getting really annoyed because they released the premiere for LA and then they released one for New York. And I was like, hang on, yeah. I don't mind spending £145 on a ticket, but then I've got to spend thousands of pounds getting to the US. Then they released one in London and oh my gosh, I was so happy. I've put so much money into this campaign, it's ridiculous, but I'm so excited for the premiere, Stu. Are we going to go together?
Absolutely, because I at the 11th hour I stuck in as well, and yes, I got the reward that gets the premiere in London. So we can do a live Star Trek Sunday from the premiere, even if it's not on a Sunday. Maybe not during the showing, but before and after, perhaps.
Yeah. We're going to have to stay right to the end because I got the bragging rights thing and we have to see my name in the credits.
Oh, totally.
We have to wait. Right. I might sneak my phone out so I can take a picture of my name in the credits.
You won't be the only one doing that, I suspect.
It's such a good feeling to know that something that I was born and raised on and had such an impact on me in my life growing up, and all the strong female characters were such role models for me in their own ways. I'm so excited to see this documentary. I can't even put into words. I'm just so excited.
I'm intrigued about the final stretch goal because they hit 1 million.
Yes, the secret.
But any speculation as to what that might be?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I've seen a lot of wildly speculative ideas about it. I think that there maybe was an alternative ending filmed that hasn't been shown yet, or an extra episode that was never aired, maybe after they landed on Earth or something like that. Because that's something that people always wonder about. And I know that the books sort of touch on what life was like after they got back, but the books aren't canon. So I'm wondering if that's got something to do with it. And I know a lot of people who, like my friends on Twitter, are like hardcore Janeway Chakotay shippers. And a lot of them think that there are some deleted scenes of their romance that was never aired. Which obviously it never became canon, that they were never together in the series. In the books they are, but we don't know. What would you like it to be?
It's really hard to say. I mean, I like the idea of it being an unaired episode, although given that they couldn't even keep the footage with the alternative Janeway under wraps, they'd have a hard job keeping that secret, I think. Also, as I understand it, Kate Mulgrew was filming some scenes of the last episode that we saw as they were dismantling the set around her, so unless it was
filmed out of sequence.
Yeah, but certainly scenes that we've never seen. Yeah, it could well have, I mean, well, they did film out of sequence, that's very true. Yeah, it's really, I'm not going to begin to speculate. I think, yeah, unseen scenes would be really, really nice.
I've just seen Kat's comment in the chat. I spoke to somebody about the Voyager books, who recommended me the one to start with if you like the whole Janeway Chakotay thing, and it's called Full Circle. I found it secondhand online for about £3, and I've just started reading it, and it's really good. And it's not just about Janeway. There's a whole separate thing. So there's Janeway and Chakotay on the ship, and then alongside that story is B'Elanna on Borath with Morale. So read it; it's really good.
Excellent. We do like some of the novels. They're pretty good. Excellent. Well, that's it for another episode. Is there, unless there's anything you'd like to add there, Keira?
I think we talked everything out already, Stu.
We pretty much have. So don't forget to join us next week when we'll be giving you more of these latest breaking updates. I'll be doing an unboxing of the final ship from the Discovery Eaglemoss collection as it goes over to Star Trek Universe. We're going to be doing a deep dive on a subject suggested by our very own Keira. What we're going to be talking about, Keira?
I thought we'd do something relevant to the pandemic, so I suggested let's do different diseases and things in Trek. So infectious Trek. which is quite ironic, seeing as we've both been coughing and sneezing all day. Um, there you
Yeah,
have it. I'm quite interested in the way that they approach illnesses within Trek and how they deal with them. So I think it would be an interesting one, wouldn't it?
absolutely. Our plan at the moment is to review. We haven't done a Next Generation review on this show yet, so I thought the episode "The Child" would be a good one related to that. But as ever, viewers, if you can come up with any other ideas, any other episodes related to that you'd like to see, then jump on the Discord. Link is below, and let us know in plenty of time. So that's it. All that remains to say is happy First Contact Day tomorrow.
Yes.
Hey!
Love it.
And in the meantime, peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.
Bye. Oh, how do I get rid of the... There we go.